episode of CosTalk with Tori.
I'm Tori. And Samuel.
I'm Samuel.
And today we have a special guest. This is Julia. She not only happens to be both of our favorite photographer, but also my sister. And that's how she scored this glorious gig on this show today. And we're very excited to have her.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, we're super excited. And we want to just tell us how you got into
Tell us a bit about
photography.
yourself.
Oh, well, I got into photography, I would say probably about 5 years ago. And I've been doing a little bit of it ever since, a little bit of it, you know, professionally, a little bit of it as a hobby, every now and then. I'm not like professional full-time photographer, but it's definitely a lot of fun and I really enjoy doing it.
You've made some money off
I
it.
have
so
made some money off it.
semi-pro.
That's semi-professional. Yes. Casually professional. Let's just say that. But yeah, a little bit about me. I'm Tori's younger sister. I'm 21, even though I look older. A lot of people say that.
Not the older sister.
I am taller though.
Both of these guys look older than me.
And
That's
she's
not
the
true.
oldest.
I'm the
She's
old woman in the
like me.
group.
But yeah, so the younger sister, I just got married last year, and I live really far away from Tori. She wants me to come over all the time, but I'm pretty boring.
I know how that is.
Yeah, but and I started going with Tori to conventions right about when she started. I've always been kind of her buddy until Jared came in, fixed her, and stole her away from me. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Now, you decided to get into photography because you'd kind of go to the con and you didn't cosplay and you didn't really have anything to do.
No, I did not cosplay. That was Tori's thing, and I wanted something to sort of, you know, for us to do together, and that was something that came up. She would cosplay, I would photograph, and I kind of, you know, expanded that into other photographers. I got more comfortable with it. I invested some money in some more gear, and then, yeah, I kind of advanced from there, but Tori's always still my favorite cosplayer.
Julia actually took the picture of Samuel that's in our opening.
Yeah, it's a Gambit picture.
It's my favorite picture of you ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's why we used it.
Because it's good.
So, today the reason we have Julia on the show is because we're going to be talking a little bit about cosplay photography and the ever tricky issue of copyright.
Oh.
And who owns the photo and what you can do with the photo.
It's
So we're
a
just going to jump right into that.
tricky issue, tricky topic.
So what made us think about talking about this today is, some of you might remember a couple years ago, Jessica Negri got in trouble for selling photographs of herself, selling prints. And I guess she maybe just assumed that because she made the costume, she was in the photo, she hired the photographer, or, you know, made a deal with the photographer to have pictures taken, that she could use the pictures and sell the prints. But it turns out that is not how it works. And I don't think there was a lawsuit or anything, but it was like kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And it kind of made a lot of people realize like how little we know about who owns these pictures and who owns these images. So Julia, being a photographer, knows some of this cool stuff, and we figured
Ask her some questions.
so.
Grill her on these.
See how well I know things.
All right. So the easiest question, the first question is, when you as a photographer take a picture of someone, all right, who owns the photograph?
I own the photograph.
You own the photograph. Okay. Now, what if they paid you for the photo shoot?
I still own the photograph.
Okay. Now, how does the cosplayer come to own the photograph?
The cosplayer can use the photographs that I send them at the end of the photo shoot. I say, here, these are yours to use. A lot of times you're going to want the photographer to specifically tell you what you can use the image for. You can ask them, can I put this on my Facebook page? Can I use this in my portfolio? Can I print this myself? Can I sell it?
So you
These
need
are the things.
express permission from
Express
the photographer.
permission.
So, anytime a picture's taken, the photographer owns the photo, no matter if you're in it or
It
not.
doesn't matter if you're in it. It doesn't matter if you knew they were taking the picture. It doesn't matter anything like that. Whoever clicks the shutter button owns the picture. Even if you borrow my camera, Samuel, and you take a picture of yourself with my camera, you now own that picture.
Did you hear about that? With the monkey? Wasn't it a monkey who stole a photographer's camera?
He took a picture.
And took a picture of himself. And, like, I don't know who it was. They used the photo of the monkey, and the photographer was like, that's my photo. And they were like, actually, it's the monkey's photo. And since we can't ask his permission,
man.
we're just going to use it.
Even though it was the photographer's camera.
So that applies to cosplayers as
Yes.
well. And
Which is a very interesting subject. But yeah, so if you're going to be the cosplayer, you want to use this, let's say you want to use it in your your photography, your portfolio, you want to use it at the beginning of your videos, then you would go to the photographer, who would be me in this instance. You would get them to write a copyright release for you saying you are able to use the picture. And you can do different copyright releases. Typically, you can have one that's like a one-time use. Like, you want to put the picture on a birthday cake. You're going to tell them, okay, I want to put that picture on a birthday cake. You're going to tell them what bakery you're going to get at. They'll give you a one-time release to use the picture on that birthday cake. Or you can get a full copyright release saying that you now own the picture, and the photographer doesn't own the picture at all anymore. They can't even use the picture. It's only yours.
So now, what do you do when it's kind of... So, like, when you're at a convention and you're meeting up with a photographer takes haul photo shoot, like haul photos of you, and then hands you a business card and is like, oh, find your pictures here. How does that, is that kind of like implied that you can use these photos and your photo will be available here for you to look at and use, or?
I would say if they hand you a business card and they say your image is going to be available on my website, you can go to their website, and if the photographer has it available to download, you'd be able to download that image and use it for non-commercial purposes. Okay. Like, you can put it in your portfolio. You can, because he's put it up there pretty much as sort of like a, not exactly royalty-free, but it's available to download. You can take that, put it on your portfolio. If the image cannot be downloaded, you'd have to finagle with the website to get it downloaded, or there's a big, watermark across the front.
Obviously, don't use that.
You cannot use that at that point. If there is a logo on the image, you also cannot crop that logo out. That would make the photographer very upset.
I see.
That's also illegal.
That's illegal. Okay.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's a lot to take in. So did you hear a couple years ago about that guy? It might have been less time than a couple years ago, where a photographer took pictures he had taken of cosplayers and printed them onto body pillows. And he was selling body pillows with the cosplayers' images on them. And everybody got really mad.
Yeah.
I think they
For
tried to sue
obvious
him.
reasons.
Now, who's in the right there?
It would depend on what happened with the photographer and what he used. I read an article about the exact situation that you're talking about, and in the article, the cosplayer in question that was on the body pillow that had a problem with it mentioned that he had had her sign a model release.
Okay, so the photographer took a picture of the model. These were cosplayers?
Yes, cosplayers.
So he took a picture of the cosplayer. The cosplayer signed a form saying, you can take my picture. And
pretty much how a model release form works is that a lot of times photographers will use model releases, and as you go into a photo shoot, have the cosplayer sign the model release saying the photographer now owns the image and they can use it for commercial purposes or advertising purposes or pretty much whatever they want to do with it. It's protecting the photographer in case he goes and makes body pillows out of it. So in this case, he had the cosplayer, as far as I understand, had the cosplayer.
He plans to have them sign.
Yes, he will have the form on file, so if he ever goes into a court of law, he can say, listen, I have this, paper here that she signed.
With their signature
with your signature. And then, now technically he owns the image. So in this case, he actually did nothing illegal.
It's just creepy.
It's just creepy. If he hadn't had them sign the model release, they might have been able to claim a defamation of character or something like that. But since he had them sign a model release, they signed the rights of the image over to him. They no longer own any of the rights of their own image, which is why a lot of photographers use model releases, even though the photographer is still protected underneath the copyright law. It's sort of like a backup protection.
When you pose for a photo in a hallway, you're just in a regular costume, some random dude comes up to you with his iPhone, he says, hey, can I get a picture? By posing for that picture, you are consenting to having your picture taken. And you are consenting to them having your image, and they can do with that whatever they want. But, tell me if I'm wrong, if they were to take that image and use it for an advertisement, they can't do that because you personally did not, you don't say they're using it to advertise their porn website, and you did not consent to having your photo used in an advertisement. They don't have a model release form. They cannot use your photo in that way. They could sell prints, they could talk about you on the internet, say whatever they wanted, but they can't use you in an advertisement without your consent or without your model release form, correct?
What I understand is that when they take a picture of it, under copyright law, they own the image. They can use the image for whatever they please. But in a situation like an advertisement or like the Bodypillows or like in a porn website or something like that, you now have the right to say this is a defamation of character, this is infringing on my personal rights, it's it's ruining my identity, anything like that.
But for the most part, if you signed a release and they're using your picture on a porn website and you signed a release,
it's no longer you.
You can't.
You don't own
You
them.
can't take them to court
Can't take
saying,
them to court.
I want you to take this down.
Nope. You can't
They
take
can
them
say,
to court.
you signed for it.
You signed for it.
I can do with it. Oh my goodness.
Which is why many professional photographers use model releases, not because they're going to use it on a porn website, but because they could later make money off of this image. They could, be selling it however they please. They can put it on t-shirts, and you go to a convention, there's 50 t-shirts with people with your face on it. You might find that kind of weird, but you can't do anything about it. And now the photographer is protecting himself from you changing your mind in the future and being like, listen, I never agreed to this, when actually you did.
Okay. So they'll always own your picture, but the model release form is just kind of an extra assurance
Protection,
that
yes.
you can't come to them and say, like, I want that money you've been making with my picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you feel? I mean, not talking to a photographer anymore, like, kind of sucks for the cosplayer. A little bit. I mean, like, I spent like $1,000 on this costume and the photos aren't even mine.
Well.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But.
I mean, I'm not saying nothing goes into photography. You gotta know, like, your aperture settings, your light, how much you're going to do this, how you're going to edit it. It takes a lot of time, but it doesn't take as much time as, like, earning all the money to buy the fabric and then putting all that fabric
together and all of that stuff, and the hours of painful walking around and armor and costume.
I don't even know about this. Say you're Yaya Han and you have your own original costume. Can you copyright that costume and copyright that image of you in the costume? And have a photographer take a picture of you? Like, what then?
If the photographer takes a picture of you in your own copyrighted outfit, the image belongs to the photographer. But if they then go sell the image, you could call that, like, sort of like the whole fan art debate. How the image of the image is copyrighted. So now they own the image and they can put it on their Facebook page if they want to. They can put it in their book if they want to. But when they go to sell the image, then you could have a right to say you can't do that because it's my copyrighted body, my copyrighted costume. I copyrighted myself. So now the picture of me belongs to me. They still own the picture, the digital image of the picture, but they can use it for their own use, but they probably can't use it in a commercial. That's a tricky thing. That would be really tricky.
If you did like an accurate costume of a character like Tori's Zelda costume. Very detailed, very accurate.
And then you take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Is it fan art?
Yeah?
Can Nintendo sue you?
Pretty sure.
So you still own the photo, but you can't make any money off of it.
Pretty much. And that's one of the really tricky things about fan art that I would say would fall under the category that Nintendo, I feel like it would be something that would really have to go to court. And somebody would really have to be like, listen, is Tori copyrighted by Nintendo when she's in her Zelda costume? Or isn't Tori in trouble for making a Zelda costume? Can Nintendo sue Tori? Does Nintendo sue me?
Is cosplaying illegal?
I don't think it's illegal until you make money off of it. That's the thing.
But technically all fan art is illegal whether you make money off of it or not.
That's true. I don't think anybody cares until you make money.
I don't think anybody cares because it's like free advertising. Like every picture of Tori in a Zelda costume
that's
is
another
free advertising.
thing. Free advertising.
Yeah.
Like all the YouTubers who do gameplay videos.
They're using the game.
They're using the game in the video, but the makers of the game, as long as it's like a good review, it's free advertisement.
Copywriting is just a tangled web of fear and lies.
Yes. Lots of red tape everywhere.
Lots of red tape.
So isn't there almost like a twice removed rule? Like, if I made a copyrighted character's costume and then you photograph me, that's like copyright infringement twice removed.
What?
I feel like in a situation like that, it's going to depend on who's going to come after you. Because if Nintendo comes after you and they try to sue you, are you going to go through the trouble of finding a lawyer and going through all the trouble, or are you just going to not wear the costume anymore? I feel like that would be a situation that would come up when it comes up.
Samuel can't even handle this
I'm
anymore.
just like, okay, next subject. No. This is very good to know.
I actually read the other day something I didn't know. Some people were talking about making fan art and like, oh, the fan art that I want to make. And they were like, oh, I really like Kingdom Hearts. I want to make some Kingdom Hearts fan art.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else said, be really careful. Disney does not mess around.
Yeah, Disney is
with
very
their copyright.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that Kingdom Hearts that belongs to Disney.
Yeah,
Disney
Disney in particular is very protective. I mean, they don't mess around at all.
Now, okay.
So if you did
what if you do a gender-bent version of a Disney character in your own original costume, but you're still being that character?
If you're still claiming to be that character, you're still that character.
Yeah.
Whether or not you look like them or not.
That's what I would feel like, yeah.
You just need to claim to be a new character, maybe possibly loosely based off of the idea of the image of so-and-so.
They'd still catch ya. They'd still catch ya.
I feel like this is one of those things that you need to do what you can to follow the rules, protect yourself as you can, and when the situation, if someday you're really famous and Nintendo comes after you for your Zelda costume, you'll deal with that situation when it comes up.
This is something that has happened before. Like, hasn't...
I mean, has anybody ever come after Yaya Han for her costume? She's famous.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a copyright infringement to make a costume?
Said, free advertising, like,
maybe.
Some people probably never even heard of, I don't know, Chun-Li until she did a Chun-Li costume. They're like, oh man, who's that badass chick right there? And play Street Fighter. I don't know. It gets really... But in some cases, like, Nintendo has actually partnered up with Lee, who formerly known as Pikmin Link. They've always been like, do what you do, girl, like, we love it. And they like, endorse her cosplays.
And I feel like that would be a situation where it's still under copyright law. Nintendo has the right to go after formerly known as Pikmin Link. But, sorry.
I can't pronounce her last name. It's like Lee Kovacs. I feel like
that's a situation where they could still legally go after her, but they are giving her the
go ahead.
Go ahead. We're probably not going to sue you.
Probably
not going to sue you.
Not unless you do something.
Yeah. Like, if she turns around and starts, cursing Nintendo in her Link outfit, then they might have a problem with that.
So don't do that.
Don't
do that.
Always represent your fandom with a
Pleasantly.
pure heart.
And respect. Respect. A
With
little bit of respect can go a
blessed
long
soul.
way.
Yeah, very true.
So, if you're a cosplayer, always make sure you know what the photographer is going to use your picture for.
Yes.
And if you're a photographer, always know what kind of cosplayer that you're dealing with.
I see.
And
so now,
It's a tricky
one
subject.
last question. Say I hire you to take photos of me because I want to sell the prints. We gotta get all that in writing.
Yeah.
You need me to give you a copyright release saying I permit you to use the image to sell. You would need a paper,
you just
me
paying
signed.
for it. Me just paying you and saying I want you to take pictures of me so I can sell them is not enough.
No, because a verbal agreement is not enough.
That's not going to hold up in court.
Yeah, for a copyright law, a verbal agreement saying, oh, well, they agreed to let me sell the pictures is not enough. As a cosplayer, you would go to the photographer and listen, be like, hey, listen, take these pictures, I want to sell them. I want you to give me a copyright release. And then the photographer will have to agree to do that.
Oftentimes you have to pay a little bit extra for that, right?
A lot of times photographers, because the photographer will no longer
anymore.
own the picture, they want you to pay more for it.
That makes
If it was
sense.
somebody like me, because I'm your sister and I love you, I might give you the copyright release. And some photographers, it just depends on the photographer who you deal with. Some photographers will not give you a copyright release whatsoever. They will never let you touch a copyright release. It's their image, and you cannot have a copyright release. Because they will then lose the image. It's like they never took the image.
So it's like selling your original painting.
Yes.
You never get to see it again.
Oh,
A lot of
that's a
people
good-
will not sell the original
yeah.
painting.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh! I'm glad I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
But I'm not a cosplayer.
So when you're at a convention and, somebody snaps your hall photo and it's just kind of mutually... That's the problem. I guess we all just assume that, I'm letting him take my picture, he's giving me his card, telling me where to find it. That means I can go on there and download it and use it how I will. But you really should ask, just to cover your butt. That's the lesson here. Never
Cover your
just
butt.
assume.
Be careful.
Just be careful.
You don't want to
We're
get sued.
learning.
We don't want to get sued.
You don't want to
sue
end
us.
up on a body pillow either.
I know I don't.
Oh,
And you should never be afraid to, if a photographer hands you a model release, you never want to be afraid to read it and then make changes to it if you don't like what it says.
Before you sign it.
Before you sign it. It's too late after you sign it, but you should always read it. If you're going to hire a photographer, you should find out if they're going to have a model release, what it contains, so you can get all that out on the table. Because you don't want to meet on photo day and then realize, guess what, we can't take photos, and you both have to walk away sad and empty without any photos.
This is just
Never fun.
It's a tricky world.
Yeah.
It's very tricky. So, well, tell us some other things about photography. You know, I always wonder, what's a good way to meet up with a photographer before the convention? How do you set up a photo shoot?
I've set up a lot of photo shoots through cosplaying websites. Cosplay.com has a whole forum for different conventions, meetups that are going to be happening, photographers in that sense. There are other cosplay websites you can use too. Or if you follow photographers on Facebook is a good way to know, message them on Facebook with their work. If you find a YouTuber that you want to be, contact that YouTuber who takes pictures, you can contact them through messaging. The internet's really your best friend in that sense of concept.
Right.
Very cool.
Wow.
You find that when you network through a convention and you take people's pictures that you'll likely meet up with them again another year? Or?
That happens a lot. I would say a lot of the people that I photograph come to me in later years and be like, hey, I'm going to be at, Katsucon this year. We're going to be here for this many days. This is what I'm going to be wearing. Do you want to meet up and take some pictures? A lot of times you want to do that beforehand because if I'm not a famous photographer, but I still have a couple people who, would contact me and be like, hey, I want to take pictures.
Right.
Exactly. If you set up a really tight schedule beforehand, though, you don't really have time to fit in your friends who might be like, oh, she's totally going to, photograph me just because we're friends. You don't want to assume that. You probably want to, contact them in the future, especially if they're really popular.
I always just assume that because we're friends, you'll take my picture.
Oh yeah, you're my sister.
I've been doing it wrong the whole time.
I'm relationshiply obligated to always take a picture.
So, the moral of the story is buy your sister a camera, make her take photography lessons. I didn't buy her a camera. I'm just saying. You want free
You
photos
helped me
for
buy
life?
the camera. We split the cost of the camera in the beginning.
Yeah. And
Free photos
force her to
for
take
life,
some
man.
photos and
Slave.
Yeah.
Slave to the spazzer bot.
and now she's doing it for all my friends.
Oh, I know, right?
It's just
Pictures.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like mutual. Like, okay, when my photographer friends are at a convention, they take photos of me, and then when Halloween rolls around, they want advice about things all the time. That's where they
It's
get
a mutual agreement of
That's
a
what they get
it's
coming
the
back.
cosplay community. We're all friends.
So many times we hear stories about people being like creeped out by their photographer. I think because a lot of photographers tend to be like middle-aged men. Just as a general rule, most photographers at cons are like middle-aged men. But how do you take photos of somebody and be very like intimate with them, telling them how to pose and how to stand, and not come off as weird or creepy? Because I don't think many times when you hear like creepy photography stories, I really don't think the photographer was trying to be a creep.
Right.
Like, they just like came off that way, especially when you're like in a skimpy little bikini costume or something.
I would say a lot of photographers get a bad rep because they, like you said, some older, guys that, are into, a lot of photographers are guys. It's just probably like 75%, 90% of the crowd. That just happens to be what they are. A lot of times when you're a photographer, you're trying to get somebody to do a certain pose. You have a certain image in mind. And a lot of times, I've had, even as a girl, a lot of people are trying to ask me, are you trying to do a crotch shot? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I have an idea in mind, and this is just how I'm trying to do it. And that's fine to ask people. If you're uncomfortable with the pose, you tell the photographer, I'm uncomfortable with this pose. I don't want to do it. Or a photographer will try to get you to do something, you're not quite feeling it, and he comes over, ask the cosplayer, is it okay if I touch you? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want to be touched. They don't want you to put your hands on them. They don't want you to move their arms or their legs or their head. Ask them, is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay if I pose you how I want you to be posed? A lot of times I don't have that problem just because I photograph a lot of my friends, but if you have someone you don't know, ask them. Always ask them. Always explain what kind of pose you want to do. A lot of times if you have a pre-arranged shoot, I've gone on to, I've gone online and looked up pictures of that character. What kind of poses does that character do? And then I'll explain to them, hey, your character does this pose. Would you be okay with doing that? And then they'll go, yeah, I totally know how to do that pose. And because they've researched the character as well, they're familiar with it. So always ask if it's okay to touch them. Never assume it's okay to take them anywhere, private. You don't want to take them back to your room. That would just be really weird. Don't take them into like a dark, scary stairwell without asking them, are you okay going here? Are you okay going there?
One time you shot somebody in a parking garage. You did a photo shoot at a parking garage, right?
I do that a lot. Parking garages are a cool place. But again, it's...
Take a friend! Don't leave a parking garage alone.
That is a great idea.
Unless you're with this small, shrimpy photographer.
Very safe. But no, it's always great to have a friend. It's always great to have a backup. Somebody to stay with you, in case you guys go out of the hotel. In case you guys go away from the convention hall. Lots of areas around. Sometimes you want to get away from people. You want to get to a more private area. But if you're uncomfortable with a photographer, don't go there alone. Yeah. Take a friend with you. Have your entourage, your friend, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. Have them come with you just to make you feel more comfortable. That's always a good thing. Or don't go there with them if you're not comfortable.
So, as a model, as a cosplayer, getting your picture taken,
what kind of tips did you... Okay, so like me, I have a super derpy face. All my photos look the same.
You do have a derpy face.
I know you always have to take like twice as many photos of me. Is that just how you compensate for somebody who can't pose, or especially costumes? Like my Zelda costume, all I can do is move my arms.
Some cosplays are very restrictive.
How do you compensate for that and make those pictures look dynamic? Even when you've got a person with a derp face.
Well, when it comes to faces... Don't do that in pictures. That's the first no derpy face, no. It's always important to have them. That's something you do when you take pictures a lot, is you get this look after about the third or fourth picture where you're just like, why isn't she done taking my picture yet? I'm so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. And you get this resting bitch face that is just it doesn't look good in picture. So always try to keep a serene peace of mind. Whatever you're thinking will come out on your face. Keep your idea in mind. If you're trying to, look calm, be calm. If you're trying to look, cool, you want to have a cool pose, you want to think cool thoughts.
So feel cool, you'll look
cool.
Just relax.
Relax. Don't try to put too much effort into it. If you're working with an amateur photographer, like a hall photograph, go ahead and already assume, always have a pose ready that you think, put your costume on, pose in the mirror, figure out what's good, don't throw your head back too far and have them shoot up your nose, figure out a pose that looks good. That way if you meet a photographer in the hallway, you're like, boom, yeah, I'm ready, let's pose.
Now, do you ever have this internal monologue? So when you shoot with someone like Sam, and he starts throwing out all these poses, and you're like, oh yeah, this is great. Do you ever have that internal like when you go to shoot with me, and you're like, oh gosh darn it, this person can't pose to save their freaking life? What's your internal thoughts here?
Honestly, when you're a photographer, a lot of people try to do poses that don't transfer well onto a picture.
Yeah.
And as a photographer, I would say it's your job to know how to pose people.
And tell them to move.
Right.
Yes. Again, I'm not a professional photographer, but I think that's a big difference between people who are amateurs and people who are professionals. People who are professionals know what looks good on cosplayers. They can pose you, they can make you look good, they can turn you the right way. If you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know how to pose you, again, you have that one pose, you're ready to go, you have a pose or two in mind that you can whip out by yourself. I always suggest that if you're going to be doing a cosplay, have a pose in mind. Don't just stand there and, look like...
Do people do that?
Yes, lots of times.
Wow.
They don't know. Or they assume, especially when you're carrying around a big DSLR, they assume you're going to pose them. So sometimes if you, be prepared, have them turn a little bit to the side, look you in the eye, or, look off to the side.
Right, so, and as a cosplayer, if you have a professional, or even someone who has a nice camera, someone who obviously knows what they're doing, taking your picture, as a cosplayer, don't be upset if they're telling you to do something a little different, because they're looking through the lens. They know what they're doing.
A lot of times it's going to feel uncomfortable a lot of times. A lot of people tell me that they're like, what am I doing? And I'm like, no, in the end, it'll look better than what it feels like. It's going to feel weird, but it transfers well onto film, because when you're standing, when you have a 3D form in front of you and you transfer that to 2D, it changes the way that people look and the way that their body looks. And, they say the camera gains 10 pounds. So as the photographer, it's your job to make sure they don't look fat.
Right.
Pretty much.
Adds 10 pounds.
Adds 10 pounds.
Once you stand in front of the camera, it just weighs so much more in your hand.
Yes.
It's real heavy.
Right.
So that's, part of your job as a photographer to know how to pose them, and it's part of the cosplayer's job to have a pose ready in case your photographer doesn't know what they're doing.
I can't believe that. It never even occurred to me. Like, there's always so many threads on everything. The Amino, cosplay.com, just regular cosplay boards. People are like, get your pose ready, know how you're going to pose, practice posing in the mirror. I had no idea that there were still people who were like, not ready with poses. I might have only thought of one pose, but at least I have one pose.
Right.
A lot of times if you're a new photographer, like for me, I have a lot of weird fandoms that people, don't really cosplay a lot of. So even if I see a costume that's not that good, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally know what's that from. I want a picture of you, even though your costume might not be the best, or you might not fit the costume very well. It's great to see your character. I want to support that fandom. Let's go take a picture. That person could be, a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's their first time cosplaying. Maybe they're not part of cosplay boards. Maybe they just heard about Katsucon and they're not into the whole, professional cosplaying thing yet. They're just new. You want to make them feel comfortable. You don't want to make them feel bad that they don't have a pose. If anything,
right.
You just turn a little bit to the side, you stand there, you put a smile on your face, and you let them take the picture.
So while you're taking the photo, you're never like, come on, this is an amateur!
Yeah, come on, man, what are you doing? This looks, no. You don't never
Right.
want to say that. That'd be terrible.
Right.
So mean, Doris.
I know.
All right.
Photographer.
So basically, the photographer, the model, and the photographer just work well, treat each other with respect, and
Be prepared
be
to
prepared.
some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be prepared. You want to, definitely respect the photographer, definitely respect the cosplayer. Nothing's going to get done with, being mean to one another.
Just don't argue.
Don't argue.
Don't argue.
Don't be rude.
Yeah.
It's not nice.
Do you have people argue with you? Like, I know how I look best posed.
I wouldn't say I've had people argue with me. I would say there's probably been instances where you're like, and then definitely when you're a cosplayer, you want to respect, when you're a photographer, you want to respect when the cosplayer does not want to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You go up to a photographer, cosplayer, can I take a picture of you? Oh no, I'm really tired. Don't get mad at the cosplayer for being tired. They carry around some heavy stuff.
Right.
At the same time, if you see, a photographer working with a cosplayer, sometimes you don't want to butt in and be like, hey, can I take a picture of you, cosplayer? 'Cause that's the worst thing.
Yeah, don't do that, because my first time cosplaying ever, I paid a photographer to take pictures of me. Like, I gave them money and I set up a shoot, and people kept going like, hey, can I take a picture? Hey, can I take a picture? If somebody is working with a photographer, don't interrupt them.
Just let them do their thing.
They won't even care. Like, if you just kind of hold up your camera and like snap a picture while they're posing for the photographer, that's
fine.
probably fine. They're probably not going to care. But don't interrupt the photographer. Like, they might have paid to have him take photos of them, and they're not going to get any photos if they keep getting interrupted.
Yeah.
And if you're the cosplayer, it's your responsibility to tell the other person trying to take pictures, no, I'm sorry, I'm working with this photographer, but I'll be wearing this costume later, we can do it then. The photographer's probably not going to tell this other person they can't take pictures of you, because then it's just like, no, they're mine. You can't take pictures of her, she's mine. That'd be weird. But yeah, that'd be a good thing.
Well,
But
we learned so much today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Very
you for coming on the show.
So, where can everybody find you?
Everybody can find me at my website, which is under Journeyer Photography at .wordpress.com.
And we'll link to that in the description below, so that's real easy.
Cool.
And we'll put some photos right here.
Yeah.
We're going to put some photos
check
on
out her awesome work. Go to her website.
Meet up with her at a convention.
Yeah.
Get some great photos.
Yeah, she's great.
And get good photos of these guys. If you're a photographer watching this, she's a great subject. Just beware the resting bitch face.
All right, well, thanks for coming down and filming an episode with us.
Thank you so much, you guys. That was great.
This has been an episode of CosTalk with Tori, and I'm Tori.
Samuel, which is me.
And I'm Julia.
Yeah.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.